What really obvious thing have you only just realized? I recently realized I was allergic to carrots. I just thought they made everyone's mouth numb, you know, just like almonds. I also learned recently that I have an almond allergy. Super embarrassing, but in college I would order rum and cokes because I heard everyone else ordering the same. Turns out I misheard everyone and found out it was just rum and coke. I live in a part of Chicago called Greektown for 8 years and never realized the blue and white Christmas lights were meant to represent the colors on their flag. It just dawned on me today. I thought astigmatism was astigmatism. So I thought you could have two stigmatisms. The Grammys are called that because the awards are gramophones. When I was little we had an Australian shepherd named Sydney. I didn't understand why her name was Sydney until 18 years later. That big ship's wheel I got to turn as a kid was not actually controlling the cruise ship. Today my friend realized pipe cleaners were originally for cleaning pipes. After I suggested using one to clean a metal straw because it's similar to a pipe. The first time I visited the USA I was on my own and in NY and going to all the museums. I kept seeing signs that said no strollers, and though, because we call strollers prams in the UK, that you guys are super strict about the proper amount of attention required to visit a museum. I actually pretended to show more interest than I had in order to be thought of as some deadbeat out for a casual stroll. It wasn't until about day 3 that I saw a no strollers sign that included a graphic for idiots. I learned that allspice is actually one spice and not a blend of spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. When I was a kid my mom told me my rabbit Rosie went to live on a farm. In my early 20s I saw an episode of The Sopranos where everyone makes fun of Tony when he realizes his dog didn't really go to live on a farm. That's when I realized Rosie had not gone to a farm either. That ponies aren't baby horses. I'm 35. For the longest time, I always thought prima donna was prima donna. The houses in Bikini Bottom are car mufflers. That to take off the plastic piece on top of deodorant you just simply twist the bottom a few times lmao. For a long time I thought to bust a nut meant that you were going to kick a guy in the balls or beat him up. So anytime I was getting worked up or angry talking about some guy I would say I'm going to bust his ducking nut, not knowing the real meaning. Nobody ever said anything, but it was always followed by my friends laughing, so I assumed it was because I was being dramatic. Years go by and my coworker is telling me about some rude person he met and I said you should definitely bust that guy's nut, to which he paused and said do you even know what that means? Suffice it to say I was extremely embarrassed and horrified when he explained it to me. That Michelangelo's David is David from David and Goliath. How did I not know this? I thought it was just dude called Dave. I'm 30 and I realized a few months ago that howdy is cowboy for how do you do. Not me, but my husband just understood that Q is pronounced Q and not key. His mind was blown. That they put measurement stickers next to gas station doors so if a robber is running out of the store you can get a better estimate of their height. I always thought they were just there for something fun to do on road trip stops. Not me, but my sister asked me about 2.5 months ago when we were watching John Wick 3 during the desert scene. She asked me if they were real and I asked if what were real and she said sandlands and I busted out laughing so goddamn hard and said you mean deserts? Yes, they're real. Thinking about it right now got me laughing. That parents have children write letters to Santa so they can figure out what to buy them for Christmas. I can't believe how I never put that together after 32 years on this earth. I just thought it was fun little tradition. That the Houston Astros name comes from astronauts. Today the radio taught me Mariah Carey wrote and sang All I Want for Christmas Is You. All this time I thought it was just a cover that she did so well, people loved it more than the original. Turns out it is the original. Cruella de Vil was a cruel devil. The villain in Halloween is not played by Michael Myers. Principal Belding from Saved by the Bell is named Belding. It called Men's Warehouse and not Men's Warehouse. It's been a couple years since I realized this and I just think that's a clever name. Saw a place labeled as Public House when I moved nearby recently. It was at that moment I realized, oh, that's why they call them pubs. It's short for public house. Personal injury lawyer commercials play more frequently during daytime TV because their clientele is injured, stuck at home, and watching daytime TV. Phineas and Ferb are shaped like a P and an F. The reason the cord hook on the vacuum spins is so you can take the whole cord off at once instead of unraveling it one loop at a time, like I have been my whole life. My mom used to make my sisters and I belly buttons for dinner. I was 27 when I realized that they were actually tortellini, but she knew we were dumb kids and would refuse something named so strange even though they were delicious. Edit because people are still seeing this apparently. Once she was making fried shrimp for dinner. My sisters and I hated fried shrimp but we loved popcorn shrimp from Long John Silver's. We complained so my mom said okay, go away and I'll make you some popcorn shrimp instead. We left and she says she took half the shrimp she was already using and cut it in two and then fried it that way. We cleaned the friggin' bowl. We were dumb kids and she was a good, smart mom. My bedroom door was broken. I finally got around to fixing it. Thought the knob was broke cause it was pushed in towards the door, so I pulled it out and realized that was how you locked the door. I realized that to be in one's birthday suit it means to be without clothes. I thought for the longest time it was a specific set of clothes you would wear on your birthday each year. I found out when I asked, what happens when you don't fit in your birthday suit anymore? Lol. That alcohol doesn't freeze in a regular freezer. ETA, I was referring to drinks with high alcohol content, not beer and wine. Not just now, but I think it applies. I'm currently in my mid-30s. I didn't realize until I was about 28 years old that my mom's name was Betty and her sister's name was Wilma. Betty and Wilma. From the Flintstones. And yes, they were definitely named after the cartoon, I asked. Flash forward 2 years later, my Aunt Wilma informed me that they were fraternal twins. Again, another thing for 30 years I had not known. My boyfriend did not know that his electric toothbrush has a timer on it that goes off at 1 minute and 2 minutes. He actually returned it and got a new one thinking it was broken, since the timer is just a brief sort of pause/reduction in the vibration. He would be like, WTF, I literally just charged this stucking thing thinking that the battery was already dying. One day, and I can't remember exactly what the conversation was, I brought up how I liked that my toothbrush let me know when I had brushed long enough, and it was like a light bulb went off in his head and suddenly he put it together that that was what his toothbrush was doing all along. In the movie Cats vs Dogs, when the dog goes son of my mom, he's actually saying son of a bitch. I always thought you can't have your cake and eat it, too was a weird saying because why wouldn't I be able to eat my freaking slice of cake? It's my cake. Nobody was telling me that I can't have my cake. Turns out they mean you can't eat the cake while also still retaining it. Once it is eaten, it is gone. An idiom I did not understand until this year. I am 27. This little piggy didn't go to the market to do any shopping. I was a voracious reader and was way ahead of the curve during school, but didn't realize until age 50 that there are two discretes/discretes. One website said the trick to remembering them is the two E letters stay next to each other when they want to whisper a secret. I kept seeing the same Chinese characters on restaurant signs and I always wanted to know what it meant. A week ago I found out, they mean restaurant. When I realize words I use all the time are painfully literal in their meaning. For example, breakfast implies you are literally breaking your fast. Afternoon is after the noon hour. I feel that when I find words like these, I've had a radical realization, but I'm just dense. This is so stupid, but I didn't realize my moms were gay until I was almost 14 and I literally heard my mom say I'm gay to my grandma as a joke. I knew that lesbians / same-sex / gay were relatively interchangeable, but it didn't click as my moms are lesbians, which is another term for being gay, and they are gay until that moment. Story time. When I was little, for some reason I hated toast. Just hated it. My parents always tried to make me eat it, but I always refused. My grandma decided to try something different. She took toast, cut it up into tiny squares, put some butter on them and called them little pillows. I ate them all the time. Only now, at 22 years old, did I realize it was just freaking toast. I only just today realized that the walk the plank on a boat is not a special edition pirates added to their ships as a means of public execution that looked like a little wooden diving board. It is, in fact, the very same plank as the gangplank you'd normally use to get on and off of the ship. It is not the presence of the plank that is threatening, but the absence of dock. Okay, this was a couple of years ago, but it was something I realized way too late in my life. You're supposed to use the towel to dry yourself after a shower. I was just wrapping it around myself and walking around in it until I air dried. This sounds ridiculous, but I recently found out about the term knee-jerk reaction. My whole life I had been saying it how I heard it, and just figured it was spelled something like knee-jerk reaction, like it was some psychology term. My whole life I thought pay-per-view was actually pay-per-view because I had only ever heard people say it, and only recently saw it written out. The song It's Getting Hot in Here isn't actually talking about here temperature. I felt very stupid. English is not my first language, so I was mind blown when I realized how keys, kiss, he's, his, this, these, etc. differed in sound, pronunciation. I first noticed this when I told my boyfriend I wanted a keys and he looked very confused, lol. Now I try my best to pronounce them properly. I was 28 before I realized the meaning to the Why is 6 afraid of 7 joke. I always just thought it was dumb, 7,8,9, like you're just counting. The electric bill wasn't paid until later in my life. Tenure is the word, not tenure, which is what I thought teachers got as like job security once they'd worked for 10 years. Cilantro and coriander are the same plant. Up until last year I thought Nat Geo was a person. I then realized it was short for National Geographic. That calling someone simple is just a nice way of calling someone stupid. Wife informed me of this, after 28 years of my grandma calling me simple. Alucard from Castlevania is Dracula backwards. I realized when I was 16 reindeer were real. I 100% thought they were fake, like elves and Santa Claus. I regret to inform you all that it just occurred to me the other day that the game is called Sims because they're in a simulation. I'm 26. Pufferfish suck in water, not air. When teenagers said we're going to TP a house, I always thought it was TP, and it never made sense to me since they just covered a house with toilet paper. I recently realized that TP was the initials for toilet paper. I'm 27. I realized at the age of 26 that narwhals are real because they were on an Octonauts episode. I walked into the room and was like, I thought they only do real animals on this show. Then the kid's dad said, "You're joking, right?"